The air inside Los Angeles County Superior Court felt like soup, stale, thick, and humming with half-suppressed gossip as spectators side-eyed the lone teenager beside the defense table. From 20 paces away, he looked almost fragile. A lean silhouette in off-the-rack slacks and a thrift store blazer that pinched at the shoulders. Yet every tilt of his chin broadcast a quiet warning. Underestimate me at your peril. His name was Jalen Dawson, age 19, charged with grand theft auto and resisting arrest, a pairing that sounded, to the casual ear, as damning as fingerprints on a smoking gun. The air inside Los Angeles County Superior Court felt like soup, stale, thick, and humming with half-suppressed gossip as spectators side-eyed the lone teenager beside the defense table. From 20 paces away, he looked almost fragile, a lean silhouette in off-the-rack slacks and a thrift store blazer that pinched at the shoulders. Yet every tilt of his chin broadcast a quiet warning. Underestimate me at your peril. His name was Jalen Dawson, age 19, charged with grand theft auto and resisting arrest, a pairing that sounded, to the casual ear, as damning as fingerprints on a smoking gun. Judge Walter Grayson, silver hair, gold cufflinks, and a tea time penciled in for 2:30, watched the boy with thinly veiled amusement. He reclined, drummed 4 fingers on polished mahogany, and let out a sigh pitched precisely for the microphones. We'll keep this brisk, folks. Some of us have places to be. A ripple of laughter rolled through the gallery, bounced off the bailiff's smirk, and died against the stenographer's clicking keys. Grayson's subtext was clear enough. This case belonged in the pile of routine convictions, a rubber-stamped footnote on a slow Monday docket. Judge Walter Grayson, silver hair, gold cufflinks, and a tea time penciled in for 2:30, watched the boy with thinly veiled amusement. He reclined, drummed 4 fingers on polished mahogany, and let out a sigh pitched precisely for the microphones. We'll keep this brisk, folks. Some of us have places to be. A ripple of laughter rolled through the gallery, bounced off the bailiff's smirk, and died against the stenographer's clicking keys. Grayson's subtext was clear enough. This case belonged in the pile of routine convictions, a rubber-stamped footnote on a slow Monday docket. From the prosecutor's table rose Mitchell Carrington, looking every inch the courtroom thoroughbred. His charcoal suit was so sharply tailored it could draw blood. The knot of his tie resembled a polished chess piece set for a swift checkmate. "Your Honor," he began, voice syrup-smooth, "the state will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendant was apprehended in a stolen 2022 Audi A6 after a high-speed pursuit through downtown. We have eyewitness testimony. We have fingerprints on the steering wheel. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence speaks for itself." Spectators nodded the way commuters nod to passing sirens, reflexively, already bracing for the inevitable. Yet Carrington's speech barely registered with Jalen. He was busy assembling mental jigsaw pieces, who sat where, which juror leaned forward on what claim, how the judge's left brow twitched whenever someone misquoted precedent. He had rehearsed scenes like this since age 14, ever since his mother Denise, a paralegal who treated case law like bedtime stories, started dragging him along to the law library on Saturday mornings. While friends memorized NBA stats, Jalen memorized Miranda versus Arizona. Now Grayson flicked a glance toward the defense. Lisa Thornton, a public defender juggling 20 dockets that week, rose to speak, but a gentle tap on her sleeve froze her mid-step. "Your Honor," Jalen said, voice steady as a plumb line, "I'll be representing myself." A hush settled like a velvet curtain. Carrington's grin widened. Self-representation in felony court was the legal equivalent of juggling knives blindfolded. But Grayson merely shrugged, amusement glowing behind bifocals. "Very well, Mr. Dawson. Impress us." Jalen began with a question so unassuming it sounded like a clerk double-checking delivery addresses. "Mr. Carrington, you stated Officer Daniel Ruiz personally saw me behind the wheel during the chase, correct?" The prosecutor confirmed with the arrogance of a man reciting the alphabet. Jalen nodded, let a beat pass, then looked at the judge. "I moved to suppress Officer Ruiz's testimony pending verification of his GPS logs. Records will show he was off-duty and miles away when the pursuit started." The request landed like a dropped gavel. Carrington opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Grayson's brows knit. Murmurs rippled across the gallery. First hint of a script rewrite. Nobody saw the flashback flicker across Jalen's memory. A cramped apartment filled with law books borrowed on permanent loan. Denise quizzing him on Brady obligations while soup simmered on a coil burner. She taught him that prosecutors sometimes buried exculpatory evidence out of laziness, sometimes out of malice, but always under the same confident smile. She taught him there are loopholes for the powerful and loopholes against the powerless, and that his job, if he chose it, was locating the seam and yanking. Back in court, Carrington scrambled to pivot toward the safer ground. "Regardless, Your Honor, the defendant's fingerprints encircle the Audi's steering wheel. Physical proof is indisputable." Jalen acknowledged the claim with a thoughtful nod, then faced the jury. "Touching something isn't the same as stealing it," he said, launching into an extended analogy about trying on a department store jacket later pinched by someone else. "Your prints, their crime." He painted sensory details, fluorescent lighting, sale tags fluttering, the tick of a mannequin's hollow arm as you slip the coat back. Jurors, an accountant, a retired mail carrier, a grad student commuter, could see themselves in that store. More importantly, they could see themselves on the wrong end of sloppy police work. Grayson leaned forward, chin on knuckles, irritation melting into genuine curiosity. Jalen pressed. "The state wants to convict me with lab results, yet they didn't subpoena the forensic analyst who processed those prints. No chain of custody, no cross-examination, no guarantee the samples weren't contaminated by half a dozen officers passing the evidence bag around the squad room after pizza." Carrington objected, voice cracking like cheap glass. Objection overruled, momentum had shifted. Time for the linchpin. Jalen produced a single-page transcript. Raymond Whitaker's original statement to police, mysteriously absent from discovery. Reading aloud, he recounted the owner's words. "The kid who took my car was white." Gasps detonated across the courtroom. The revelation cut straight through months of prosecutorial swagger. Carrington shuffled papers as though a missing paragraph might magically reappear. Grayson rubbed his temples, the headache now fully grown. At that moment, Jalen glimpsed his younger self studying Denise's worn paperback of Gideon's Trumpet. Heard her mantra, "Facts win cases, but only if someone brings them to the table." He felt every late-night annotation surge up like adrenaline, sharpening his voice into a scalpel. "What you've heard today," he told the jury, "is not evidence, it's assumption. It's a rush to closure at the expense of truth." The real thief walked away while officers grabbed the nearest black teenager and called it a day. Silence followed, heavy enough to tilt the ceiling. Carrington tried a final thrust. Possession is 9/10 of the law. But the blade clanged against Jalen's shield. "I wasn't in possession. I was arrested blocks away from the abandoned vehicle, walking home after midnight snacks with friends. Not driving, not hiding, just existing in a zip code someone decided was close enough." The jury's collective body language lurched. Shoulders squared against an invisible weight. While court aides fetched the suddenly crucial GPS logs, Grayson studied the prosecution's table the way a doctor studies an X-ray revealing fractures. When the digital records confirmed Officer Ruiz's patrol car idled 3 miles from the pursuit corridor, the judge sat back, expelled a long breath, and tapped his gavel twice. The state has failed to meet its burden. Case dismissed. Gasps, scribbling pens, camera flashes. Chaos and catharsis in equal measure. Jalen didn't move. He let the words settle, seeping into wood grain, into the stenographer's shorthand, into the judge's conscience. Only when the bailiff announced the next docket number did he gather his scattered notes, each sheet a relic of endless nights under a dim desk lamp, and step away. At the threshold, Grayson's voice softened. "Mr. Dawson, consider law school." Jalen half smiled. "Already on the syllabus, Your Honor." Outside, the courthouse steps transformed into a press corral. Reporters fired questions like starter pistols. How did you dismantle an airtight case? Will you sue for wrongful arrest? Are you the next Thurgood Marshall? Jalen pulled his hoodie over short-cropped hair, scanning for the one face that mattered. Denise stood by the curb clutching a faded canvas briefcase, the same one she carried to night court years earlier when childcare fell through. Her stoic mask fractured into relief as she whispered, "Boy, you nearly stopped my heart." He hugged her, smelling lavender hand lotion and decades of tenacity. "Had to bet on what you taught me," he said. Across the street, Judge Grayson lingered beside a luxury sedan, jacket unbuttoned, expression rewritten. The day had begun with a yawning docket and a punchline about tea time. It ended with a teenager ripping the blindfold from Lady Justice and handing it to the bench for inspection. For the first time in years, Grayson wondered how many convictions in his career had rested on convenience rather than certainty. Carrington exited a side door minutes later, tie askew, eyes darting. He walked past a cluster of law students who had slipped in mid-trial for extra credit. One took notes feverishly, writing not about the prosecution's outline, but about its collapse. Somewhere, syllabi would sprout new cautionary examples titled "The People vs. Dawson." As mother and son reached the corner, a city bus hissed open. Its banner advertised a community college pre-law program. Know your rights, change your future. Denise nudged him. Jalen chuckled. Timing, huh? He paid 2 fares, and they slid into plastic seats wobbly from years of commute chatter. The bus lurched forward, neon reflections smearing the window like fresh paint. Jalen's mind sprinted ahead. LSAT practice in the early dawn, scholarship essays built from scrap notes, the possibility, distant but magnetic, of clerking in the very courthouse that once mocked him. He pictured future defendants who wouldn't know how to subpoena GPS logs, who wouldn't have a paralegal mom annotating police procedure in pencil margins. He vowed that when he next stood inside Grayson's wood-paneled arena, he'd wear the tailored suit, not rely on one from community center donations. Yet ambition alone wasn't enough. Reform required an army. He drafted mental blueprints, a nonprofit workshop in his old neighborhood teaching teenagers how to file public records requests, TikTok explainers breaking down probable cause thresholds, Saturday clinics pairing law students with anyone who'd ever wondered whether "you have the right to remain silent" actually protected them. Reporters still clamored on the courthouse steps, but their voices shrank behind diesel rumble. Jalen rested his forehead against cool glass, watching sun-slashed buildings slide by like slow movie frames. With every block, he felt the day's adrenaline bleed into something sturdier, purpose tempered by humility. He hadn't won so much as exposed a glitch. The system would patch itself unless people kept probing. He closed his eyes, replaying a snippet of trial like a favorite hook. Fingerprints prove contact, not intent. A simple line, yet inside it lived centuries of disproportionate policing. He resolved to keep sharpening phrases that could crack complacency in the minds of jurors, judges, journalists. Words, he now understood, were evidence too. The bus braked at Western Avenue. Denise tapped his knee and rose. They stepped onto sun-baked pavement, the scent of taco carts threading through exhaust. Ahead stood their apartment complex. Peeling paint, crooked mailbox, yes, but also the launching pad for a journey the judge's gavel had only accelerated. Jalen paused at the gate, looked back the way they'd come, and whispered a promise to the building skyline. The next time bias picks an easy target, it won't find an empty seat across the aisle. It'll find me. Somewhere downtown, Grayson sat in chambers staring at the dismissed case folder. He ran a thumb over Jalen's mugshot, expression suddenly out of sync with the narrative it was supposed to reinforce. Maybe, he thought, the photo would serve better as a reminder than a relic. A reminder that arrogance in a robe is still arrogance. Night settled over Los Angeles with its usual halogen glow. Jalen opened his bedroom window to catch a breeze, cracked open Gideon's trumpet, pages brittle from overhandling, and annotated one last margin. Knowledge is leverage. Empathy is strategy. He placed the pencil down, already scripting tomorrow's study schedule. In the alley below, a siren wailed and faded. He didn't flinch, he measured. Every echo was data, every headline a potential case study. Because the story wasn't over, it was opening argument. And this time the kid in the defendant's chair had grabbed the legal playbook, stuffed it in his backpack, and walked out the front door. No escort, no cuffs, just 19 years of reading ahead on the syllabus and the unshakable conviction that concrete walls move if you push hard enough.